was a German-born Jew, and he was lucky enough to immigrate to this country when he was a small child. And if he were away from home, these were the foods. These would be the foods that would provide comfort to him. I said, Teresa, tell me about your husband. And she reached in her apron pocket, and she handed a very tattered sheet of paper to me. And it was a letter 10 years old. And it spoke to Teresa. It was from her husband, Alexander Good. And it spoke to her of love and poetry and the Bible. He writes, speaking of the Bible, I might mention that by this time in my preparation for the career of a rabbi, I have read most of the Bible, and when I say read, I mean read it 3 times at least. Perhaps if Hitler had read some of its valuable sayings, he would be a wiser ruler than he is destined to become. His policy now means utter ruin to the whole of Germany. He can no more injure the Jews of Germany without seriously depriving the nation itself of all its wealth and position than he can cut off his own nose without detriment to his Charlie Chaplin-esque physiognomy. Now, Rabbi Good became Chaplain Good when he enlisted in the Army, and he embarked on the USA Dorchester in late January of last year. As most of you probably know, the Dorchester received a direct hit to her engine room from an enemy torpedo when she was about 100 miles off the coast of Greenland. The ship rolled to its starboard side and began to sink. Chaplain Good, along with 4 other Army chaplains, the Methodist, the Roman Catholic, and the Dutch Reformed chaplain, did all that they could to calm the panicked men, aid in the wounded, and assist in the rescue operations. It soon became tragically apparent there were not enough life preservers to go around to everyone on board. The 4 chaplains instantly removed the life preservers from their own necks and put them around the necks of the young soldiers closest to them. The last eyewitnesses saw of these 4 brave chaplains. They were arm in arm, heads bowed in prayer, standing on the hull of the Dorchester as it sank beneath the sea. This final letter I'm going to read, I got just before I came on the tour. It was sent to a friend of mine, and it concerns one of 23,000 paratroopers who are comprised mostly of the American 82nd and the 101st Airborne Divisions, who were dropped deep in enemy territory throughout the French countryside shortly after midnight on June the 6th. This particular letter is about Private First Class James W. Dashner. My dearest aunt, I suppose this is the first time I have ever written to you, Aunt Nina. I have always been able to maintain the closest contact through Mom, and it never seemed necessary. I am sorry that this first letter must be written under such a sad circumstance, but I hope we may come to know each other better through future correspondence, and that we may be able to comfort each other in some way. I can at least tell you how your son James met his death. When Jim came to see me a few weeks before the invasion, I knew instinctively when I first saw him that I would like him. First of all, his wonderful physique and handsome features command respect, and once you talked with him, his honest ways and great personality made you like him very much. We were friends from the start. We had a pleasant afternoon talking of home and loved ones, and then I walked out on the road with him where he flagged a truck going toward his camp. We shook hands and wished each other luck, and I thought as I watched him running to catch his truck, what a great guy. That is the last I ever saw of him. I nearly jumped in France because he is in the same division I am, and I hoped to meet him there. His regiment was close by all the time, and there was no time to try to get together until the 10th day, when I located his company and went over to see about him. I found his platoon, and it only took a glance around to prove to me that Jim wasn't there. I hoped for the best, but dreaded to ask about him. By chance, I approached a very former close friend of his who was with him at the time, and when he told me what had happened, it was quite a blow. By this time, I had lost many friends and thought I had become hardened to it, but this was different. Jim was part of my family. But the battlefield is no place to grieve, so I made an effort to control my feelings and asked the fellow to tell me the details. This is what he told me. Jim's section leader had been killed, and Jim was in charge, so he took over the machine gun himself. His platoon was sent out on a flank and ran into plenty of trouble. The enemy had them surrounded on 3 sides and had them pinned down with fire. Jim took the machine gun and crawled forward to a good position and set up the gun and began firing. He was in a spot and was doing plenty of good, so the Heinies started concentrating all their efforts on him. They were trying to get him with a mortar. His platoon leader saw they were getting close and yelled to Jim that he'd better get out of there. The boys in the platoon said it was possible Jim didn't hear because they'd never known Jim to not obey an order before. But his friends seemed to think he was just mad and was doing so much good at the time that he didn't want to move. So he stayed right there and fired until his gun was red hot. Then they zeroed in on him and landed a mortar shell right on top of him. He died instantly, but his hand was still clutching the trigger. As a result of his continued fire, the platoon was able to advance on and achieve their objective. On the way back to my outfit, I let myself go and cried like a baby, and I wasn't ashamed of it. When his son gets old enough, tell him how his father died and his son's son. Our family must never forget him. Let's try to replace grief with pride in the way he died and the things he died for, as that is the way Jim would want it. Yes, his outfit has lost a great soldier. His buddies have lost a great buddy, but you, Aunt Lena, have lost a son. God has not left us without consolation. We know that all is done in fulfillment of God's will, and he has promised that we shall one day all be together again and there find happiness that shall never end, where there is no sorrow, tears, nor grief. Jim is there tonight under God's loving care. He will never again have to experience the horrors of battle. I can hear him saying, "Don't grieve for me. I'm happy here." And when we meet again, we'll never be separated. I talked to Jim, Aunt Lena. He was ready to go. I know. No one knows how heavy your heart is tonight, but if I could in some small way help to take his place, I would like to be your son. I know that I could never fill his place in your heart, just as no one could take the place of my mother if God saw fit to take her away, but we can be of some comfort to one another. I want you to let Jim's wife and baby know if there's anything I can do for them. They should not hesitate to call on me because there is nothing I wouldn't do for Jim's sake. Give my love to Martha and his brothers with all my love, Charles. We are so proud of you and grateful. Thank you and bless you all.
never smile again until I smile at you. I'll never laugh again. What good would it do? The tears would fill my eyes. My heart would realize that our romance is through. I'll never love again. I'm so in love with you. I'll never thrill again to somebody new. Within my heart, I know I would never start to smile again until I smile at you.
Just one look at